On my birthday, I thought the only surprise I'd get was a cake and maybe a few badly wrapped gifts. But instead, my wife walked into our living room with three strangers, a grown man, a young woman, and the one person I never expected to see standing in my house, the man she used to love. And when she said the words, "This is the family I hid from you for 30 years," I didn't yell. I didn't break. I didn't even stand up. I just smiled, leaned back in my chair, and handed her the box she never knew was waiting for her. If you're new here, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because this one, changes everything. Ever notice how life has a strange way of ripping the curtain back when you least expect it? Folks say birthdays bring surprises, but I sure was expecting mine to come wrapped in 30 years of lies, 30 years of secrets, 30 years of a life I didn't know my own wife had lived before she met me. But let me back up a little. My name's Ray. I'm 58 years old, been married to my wife, Linda, for 20 of those years. And if you asked anybody in town, they'd tell you we were the kind of couple who made marriage look easy. We laughed a lot. We kept to ourselves. We didn't make scenes. We were steady. Or at least, I thought we were. My birthday fell on a Saturday that year. I remember waking up early because the sun came to blinds just right and hit me square in the eyes. I rolled out of bed and expected to smell coffee, maybe hear my wife humming in the kitchen like she always did on special days. But the house was quiet. Quiet enough that I felt something off, like the air had weight to it. Then I noticed my wife's side of the bed was empty, sheets cold. She'd been up for hours. I stepped into the hallway and saw her at the front door, hair brushed, makeup done, coat on, hands shaking like she was trying to hide it. Right then, my gut whispered something I didn't want to hear. "Morning," I said. She didn't turn. "Morning, Ray. I'm heading out for a bit." "On my birthday?" I asked, half laughing, half confused. She forced a smile. "Just trust me." Now, when a spouse says, "Trust me," like that, soft voice, eyes pointed anywhere but yours, you feel it, the crack in the wall. But I didn't push. Not yet. Because if I've learned anything, it's this. People tell the truth when they think you aren't looking. So I let her go. "Around 11, she called. Her voice sounded tight. "Ray, I need you to be home. I'm bringing some people over." "What people?" I asked. A long pause. Breathing that wasn't steady. "Family," she whispered. "My family." That hit me harder than it should have. Because Linda, she told me she had no living family. No parents. No siblings. No cousins. No children. She'd said those exact words the night we got engaged. She'd said them every time the topic came up over the last 2 decades. She cried when she talked about being alone in the world. So hearing her say "my family" felt like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. But I kept my voice calm. "All right, I'll be here." Because I wanted to see her lie unfold with my own eyes. 12 sharp, I heard a car pull up, then another door, then 2 more. I stepped to the window and saw a woman who looked a whole lot like Linda. Same eyes, same jawline, standing next to a man around my age. Beside them were 3 adult kids, 20s or so, staring at the house like it was a haunted museum. And then my wife stepped out of the car behind them, shoulders tight, eyes wet. She looked like a guilty child walking to principal's office. I opened the door before she knocked. She looked at me, searching my face for anger, but I just said, "Well, looks like we got guests." Her relief was visible, but she didn't deserve it. Not yet. They all crowded into the living room, awkward and stiff like strangers meeting for a business deal. My wife introduced them one by one. Her sister, her brother-in-law, her niece, her nephew, her daughter, That last one nearly knocked me over. Daughter. The young woman looked away, like she expected me to explode. But I didn't, because sometimes silence scares people more than shouting. I sat down slow, hands steepled, voice calm. So, which one of you wants to explain 30 years of secrets? No one spoke. Eyes shifted, shoulders tensed. My wife's hands trembled in her lap. Finally, her sister spoke. Ray, we didn't know you didn't know. That makes one of us, I said. My wife broke then, crying, shaking, apologizing in gasps. I was young, she said. I made mistakes. I thought I could leave my old life behind. I wanted a fresh start. I wanted to be someone new for you, Ray. I wanted to be better. I didn't think they'd ever come back. And when they did, it was too late to tell you. Every word felt like ice water down my spine. Not because she had a past. Everybody's got a past. But because she hid it from me for nearly 3 decades. Her daughter finally spoke. I didn't come to cause trouble. I just wanted to meet the man my mom built her life with. My jaw tightened because I realized something. They weren't here for drama. They were here because my wife invited them. Because she chose today, my birthday, to reveal everything she had buried. And that's when she said the line that sealed everything. Ray, I brought them because you deserve the truth. All of it. I leaned back, studying the faces of strangers who weren't supposed to be strangers. Then I smiled, calm, controlled, because while she thought she was the only one with secrets, she didn't know what I had been keeping in the garage. The box, the one she believed was full of old tools, the one I had kept locked for years, the one that held the truth I never intended to show anyone, until today. So I stood up, walked out of the room, and came back holding it. A wooden box, heavy, aged, wrapped in the same quiet history I'd wrapped myself in for decades. I placed it gently on the coffee table. My wife stared at it like it might explode. What's in there? She whispered. I looked directly at her. Since we're telling truths today, I said softly, I think it's time you saw yours. The room went dead silent. Her breath hitched. Her sister froze. Her daughter stepped back. And my wife, she looked at me with a fear I had never seen before. Not because of what she had brought into the house, but because of what I was about to reveal. And that was the moment the birthday truly began. You ever watch a room forget how to breathe? That's what happened the second I set that wooden box on the table. Nobody moved. Nobody blinked. It was like the whole house leaned forward, waiting for something it didn't understand. My wife stared at that box like it was alive, like something inside it might crawl out and destroy the last 3 decades she had built on top of lies. Funny thing is, I wasn't angry, not the screaming kind. Anyway, there's a certain quiet kind of anger that settles deep in a man's chest, heavy, patient, cold, the kind that doesn't make you shout, the kind that makes you think. That's the kind I had. My wife, Linda, wiped her face with trembling hands. Ray, please, what is that? I sat down slow, folded my hands over my knee. Something I kept for a day like this. I said, her daughter, 20-something, polite posture, eyes too much like her mother's, took a step closer, cautious. Is this going to hurt her? I looked at the girl. No, I said, but it'll change things. Linda swallowed hard. Ray, please, just tell me. Not in front of them. That made me smile. You brought them into my home on my birthday. Linda, you opened the door to truths. Now you'll hear mine the same way you made me hear yours, in front of everyone. Her sister folded her arms. Maybe we should step outside. No, Linda whispered. This is my punishment. I'll stay. That hit the room like a soft blow. Even then, she didn't know what was coming. I placed my hand on the box. It looked ordinary from the outside, aged cedarwood, brass hinges that had gone dark with time. But the weight of it, the way it sat on that table like it belonged there, it carried the kind of presence you don't question. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I looked at Linda. 30 years, I said quietly. 30 years you kept a whole family hidden from me. She burst into tears again. I was scared, Ray. I thought you'd leave if you knew what kind of life I came from. I thought I didn't deserve you. I thought I could be new. I nodded slowly. Everyone has a past, Linda, but you didn't just hide it. You cut it clean out of your story. Her daughter sat on the edge of the couch, wringing her hands. She didn't abandon me, she said quickly. She left because my grandparents wouldn't let her bring me. They kicked her out. They kept me. Later, they changed my last name. Her voice cracked, and for a moment, I saw the girl beneath the adult, the wounded part, the abandoned part. But I didn't speak to her. I spoke to the woman standing in the doorway of a mess she created. You could have told me, I said, once, anytime. Linda looked at the floor like it had answers hidden in the grain. I kept waiting for the right moment, she whispered. And then years passed, and then decades, and suddenly the truth felt bigger than me. I leaned forward. No truth is bigger than a marriage, Linda. But lies? Lies grow until they're all you see. Her sister shifted uncomfortably. The brother-in-law pretended to study the rug. The kids kept stealing glances at the box, like they expected it to glow. And then I said the words that cracked the silence. You weren't the only one lying, Linda. Her head snapped up. What? I tapped the lid gently. I didn't bring this box out to hurt you. I brought it out because if we're going to have a reckoning, it has to go both ways. Her daughter leaned forward. Mr. Ray, what does that mean? I sighed slowly, remembering things I hadn't spoken aloud in years. Before I met your mother, I said softly, I had a life too. A life I don't talk about. A life she never asked about. A life she never wanted to know. Linda looked confused, nervous. Ray, what life? The one I left behind. I said. Her breath caught. Are you saying you? No. I cut in. Not what you think. I never had another wife. Never had another family. But I had something else. Something I kept locked away because I didn't want the past getting its hands around my throat again. Now everyone was staring at the box with a different kind of fear. Ray, what is inside? Linda whispered, and that's when I opened it. Slow, deliberate, creaking hinges breaking through the tense silence. When the lid lifted, Linda gasped like she'd seen a ghost. Inside were a thick folder of documents, old photos, letters, a badge, and a ring, a simple gold band, tarnished, old, but cared for like something sacred. Her daughter leaned forward. Whose ring is that? I looked at my wife, eyes steady. My mother's, I said, the only thing I have left of her. Everyone went still. My father left us when I was 10, I said. My mother raised me alone, worked double shifts, never complained. She died young, too young. I held the ring between my fingers. When she passed, I made a promise to myself that if I ever got married, I'd never keep secrets, never hide parts of my life, never lie, because lies take pieces of people until there's nothing left. Linda's shoulders crumpled, but I also promised myself something else. I continued. If I ever saw the same pattern of secrets in someone I loved, I'd show them this box. She wiped her face. Ray, I didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said gently. I lifted the folder. These are all the things I never shared. Not because I wanted to hide them, but because you never asked. Our whole marriage, Linda, You never once asked me who I was before you. Not really." She froze, stunned. Her daughter whispered, "So this is your truth?" "Part of it," I said. Linda reached for my hand, but stopped halfway. "Ray, what are you doing?" "I'm telling you," I said softly, "that you weren't the only one with a past. But the difference is mine wasn't secret. Yours was a lie." She covered her mouth with her shaking hand. Her sister spoke up quietly. What do you want from her?" I looked at my wife. "At the very least, honesty. All of it. Today." The room held its breath. Linda's eyes stayed locked on the ring in my hand, a symbol of truth, of loss, of promises kept and promises broken. And then she finally spoke, voice breaking apart. "Ray, there's more." Her daughter looked up sharply. "Mom." Linda didn't let her finish. "There's a reason I hid this family," she whispered. "A reason I never told you the whole truth. A reason I never thought they'd come back." She looked at the door like the past was standing right behind it. "The people you met today, they aren't my only secret." The room snapped to attention. Her daughter stiffened. Her sister went pale. Even the brother-in-law muttered, "Linda, don't." But she kept going. "There's someone else," she said. "Someone you don't know about. Someone who knows the truth I've kept hidden all these years." I set the ring down slowly. "Who?" She exhaled like it hurt her chest. "My son." The room exploded in gasps. Her daughter grabbed her arm. "You told me I was your only child." Linda broke. "I lied," she whispered. "I lied to all of you." Her voice shook as she looked at me. "He's coming here, Ray. Today. I asked him to come. And when he walks through that door, everything will change." I leaned back slowly, because she wasn't wrong. And for the first time that afternoon, I didn't know what was coming next. You ever feel the whole world tilt without moving an inch? That's what it felt like when Linda said the words, "Ray, I have a son." The room didn't just go quiet. It hollowed out. Her daughter froze like her breath had been stolen. Her sister's hand flew to her chest. Her nephew and niece looked like they wanted to disappear into the walls. And me? I just sat there, not shocked, not angry, just steady. Steady the way a man gets when he's already survived worse storms than the one rolling in. I folded my hands, slow and controlled. "Where is he now?" Linda swallowed hard. "He's on his way." "Here." I asked. She nodded. "I asked him to come." Her voice trembled like she expected me to explode. But the thing about me is, I don't explode. I observe. I wait. I think. Why today? I ask quietly. Why on my birthday, Linda? Why now? She wiped her face again. But tears don't erase truth. They just make it shine under the light. Because, she whispered, I couldn't carry any more. Not after 30 years. Not after lying to my daughter. Not after lying to you. Not after lying to myself. Her daughter turned on her. "You lied to me my entire life." It wasn't a scream. It wasn't loud. But it cut deeper because of how soft it was. A daughter bleeding quietly in front of everyone. Linda reached for her, but the girl moved away. "You said you never had a son. You said I was your only child. You said the man who raised me wasn't my real father, but that I was the only reason you ever stayed in touch with that side of the family. You lied about everything." Her sister's voice came sharp. "Linda, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell any of us?" Linda sank into the chair like her bones couldn't hold her upright. "Because," she whispered, "I was ashamed." The doorbell rang. Everybody stiffened like the floor had shocked them. Even I felt something shift under my ribs. She looked at me, not pleading, not apologizing, but bracing. "Ray, please, just listen. He's not like them." meaning the family behind her, meaning the people who stood silent while she unraveled herself, meaning the past that had finally come knocking. I stood up, not fast, not slow, just enough to let everyone know I wasn't shaken, and I walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard her daughter whisper, "Mom, what did you do?" But Linda didn't answer, because the truth was about to walk into the house. When I opened the door, the first thing I saw was shadow. Tall, broad, still. Then the man stepped into the light. Maybe 32, maybe 33. Dark hair, gray eyes, Linda's eyes, but colder, sharper, like they'd seen things they shouldn't have. He looked me up and down with a soldier's caution. "You Ray?" "I am," I said. He didn't offer a hand. He didn't smile. He didn't blink much either. "I'm Lucas." Behind me, I heard Linda gasp quietly. "Lucas." Her voice cracked. She hadn't seen him in years. Maybe decades. He stepped inside without waiting for permission. Not rude, not entitled, but like a man who had spent his life standing in doorways that weren't really open to him. He looked at the room, looked at his mother, looked at the family behind her, but he didn't move toward any of them. His stare stayed on Linda. "You told him?" he asked. She nodded. "About time." That voice, steady, deep worn, felt too old for a man his age. Linda stood, shaking. "H, how have you been?" Lucas laughed once. A short, humorless thing. You don't get to ask that. Her knees gave slightly, and she held on to the side of the couch. "I deserve that," she whispered. He didn't argue, didn't soften, didn't speak, just stared. And I realized then this wasn't the reunion she'd imagined, not even close. Finally, he glanced at me. "You knew?" "Not until today," I said. He nodded once, the way a man does when he adds a fact into a file in his head. Looks like we're both living in someone else's truth. Linda flinched. "Lucas, please. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know." "You don't know what I want," he snapped. Not screaming, not violent, but sharp enough to make everyone freeze. He took a breath, steadying himself, then turned to me again. "Can we talk alone?" Linda panicked. "No, you can't. Ray, you can't just..." I raised a hand. "Linda, sit." She sat, not because she wanted to, but because she heard something in my voice she wasn't used to. Command. I motioned to the kitchen. Lucas followed. He didn't sit. He stood by the counter, hands in his pockets, scanning the room like he didn't trust the house not to collapse. "What do you want to say?" I asked. He studied me with eyes that saw too much. "My mother told you the cleaned-up version," he said. "I came to tell you the one she won't." I folded my arms. "I'm listening." He breathed deep, like he had to carry the words up from somewhere buried. "She didn't leave me," he said. "She abandoned me." The words hit like a slow-moving train, quiet but unstoppable. "She was 19, he continued. "She had me. Then she left. Left me with people who didn't want me. Left me with a man who wasn't my father. Left me with a house full of fights and cold dinners and doors that slammed too hard." His jaw clenched. "I grew up thinking I wasn't wanted. And that does something to a kid. Makes you hard. Makes you quiet. Makes you learn how to rely on nobody." I didn't interrupt. Didn't move. Didn't offer sympathy too early. I just let him talk. When I was old enough to start asking questions, he said, no one would answer. When I dug too deep, they shut me down. When I pushed harder, they pushed back. His voice darkened. And when I finally found the truth, they blamed her for everything. Every bad thing that happened. Every bruise. Every hole in the wall. Every night I didn't sleep. He shifted his weight. eyes narrowing, and then I tracked her down. I felt the temperature in the room change. She moved on, he said. New life, new marriage, new everything. And she never looked back. His hands curled into fists. She left me to rot, Ray. My jaw tightened. A quiet anger, not at him, not at the truth, but at the weight he'd carried alone. And now she drags me here, he said, on to your birthday, into a house full of strangers, into a room full of lies. And she expects what? Hugs? Forgiveness? A clean slate? He shook his head. She doesn't get out of this that easy. I let a moment pass. Then I asked the question that mattered. What do you want from me? He looked up, surprised I didn't ask what he wanted from her. I want you to know who you married, he said. I want you to know the truth, she won't say out loud. And the truth is? I asked quietly. He took a breath. She didn't just lie to you. She erased an entire life. He looked toward the living room. And I'm here to take it back. I leaned against the counter, hands steady. Lucas, what does take it back mean? He met my eyes. It means I didn't come to meet you. I came to confront her. All of her. All at once. He stepped closer. And I want you in the room when I do it. Behind us, I could hear whispers. Linda crying softly. Her daughter pacing. Her family arguing quietly. I exhaled slowly. You want me to stand with you while you tear your mother apart. He didn't deny it. I want the truth on the table, he said. The whole truth, not just the parts that make her look sad. I nodded once. Then I said the thing he didn't expect. All right. He blinked. You'll do it? Yes, I said, because I think it's time she stops running from the past. And she won't face it alone unless someone forces her to. He stared at me for a long moment, like he was trying to understand the kind of man I was. Then he nodded. Let's do it. We walked back to the living room. Everyone looked up, especially Linda. Her eyes darted between us. Fearful, desperate, small. Ray, she whispered. Please, don't let him. I raised a hand. Linda, I said, sit down. Her breath shook, because for the first time in our marriage, she saw a version of me she didn't recognize, the version she created, with 30 years of secrets. We sat. Lucas stood, and the past finally came home to collect its debt. I stood there in that quiet room, the kind where even the air feels like it is waiting for someone to say the wrong thing. My wife sat across from me, eyes red, hands trembling, the secrets of 30 years scattered around her like broken glass. And somewhere deep in the hallway, I could still hear the uneasy shifting of the family she had brought into our home, the family she hid from me for 3 decades. For a long time I did not speak. I just watched her, not with anger this time, not with shock, but with that strange kind of stillness that comes after a storm has blown out the last piece of your old life. It was like standing in the ruins of a house and realizing you still had to rebuild something from all the pieces. She lifted her eyes finally and whispered my name, like she wasn't sure she still had the right to say it. I said, go ahead. Tell me anything else there is to say before we decide where this night ends. She took a breath, so long it almost sounded painful. Then she tried to explain everything all over again. But the truth is I'd already heard the important part back in part 3. The moment she confessed she had lived 2 lives at once. The moment she admitted she had loved the wrong man for years before she ever met me. The moment she said she kept them all hidden because she didn't believe she deserved a second chance. Every detail after that was just noise. So I stopped her, quietly, not with anger, with a kind of tired mercy. I told her I understood how people can ruin their own lives before they even know what they want from life. I understood that sometimes people run from a past they're sure will destroy the future they are trying to build. But I also told her something she didn't expect. I told her I wasn't sure if our marriage had ever really been honest. I wasn't sure if I had spent 3 decades building a life with a woman who never felt completely safe standing in it with me. That made her cry harder than anything else that night. When she finally calmed down, I said we needed to bring everyone into the living room, because whatever happened next was not going to happen through closed doors. We walked into the hallway together. Her hidden family, those 3 strangers who looked like they stepped out of another universe, stood awkwardly against the wall. Her son, her daughter, and the man she left behind 30 years ago. The man she once loved, maybe still loved in some way she didn't know how to kill. They all turned when they saw me. Her son straightened his shoulders like he was expecting a fight. Her daughter looked down at the floor. And the man she once loved held her eyes for a moment that hurt more than anything she had confessed earlier. I told them all to sit down. We gathered in the living room just like it was some kind of accidental family meeting, though none of us want to call it that. I sat in my chair. My wife sat on the couch. The 3 of them stayed together like a unit, which made sense because they had been a unit long before my wife ever stepped into my life. I looked at them and said I knew they had questions. So did I. And since the truth had already torn its way out, we might as well finish this night honestly. Her son spoke first. He told me he didn't come here to break my marriage. He didn't even come here by choice. He only found out who his mother was a year ago when the man she had left finally told him the truth. He said he wasn't angry at me. He didn't hate me. He didn't want anything from me. He just wanted answers from her. Her daughter, quieter, said she had spent her whole life wondering why their mother left. If she died, if she was taken, if she never loved them. She looked at her mother and asked why she didn't fight for them, why she didn't come back even once. The man she left said only one sentence. He said 30 years ago she was scared, and he let her walk away because he thought she deserved something better than the life they had. But he never expected her to disappear forever. My wife could barely breathe through all of that. And I won't lie, the room felt too small for everything everyone was feeling. But I kept quiet, because this wasn't about me. Not yet. They had 30 years of missing pieces to put back together, and I wasn't going to stand in the way of that. But once they finished, once the air settled again, they all looked at me, like I was the final judge in a trial none of us signed up for. I stood up slowly. I told them there was something they all needed to see, and I walked to my desk drawer, opened it, and took out the box. The same box I had been holding since the beginning of this story. The box I was supposed to give my wife on my birthday before she changed everything. The box she didn't know she had walked past when she arrived with the family she hid from me. The box she had forgotten in the chaos of her own confession. I held it in my hands for a long moment. Everyone stared at it like it was a live wire. Then I set it on the coffee table between us. My wife whispered, "What is that?" I told her to open it. Her hands trembled as she lifted the lid. Inside were 2 envelopes, a ring, and a single folded letter. The first envelope held divorce papers. Already filled out. Already signed. I didn't do that recently. I did it 8 months ago when I first suspected something was wrong. When she started waking up at night, crying in the hallway. When she kept whispering someone's name in her sleep. When she had a photograph in her closet that she thought I wouldn't find. I didn't know the whole truth back then, but I knew something was breaking between us. The second envelope held adoption approval papers. Papers I had filled when we were trying to grow our family years ago. When she said she wasn't ready. When she kept delaying and delaying until it never happened. Papers I kept hidden because part of me believed she could love a new future. Now I understood why she never could. The ring was not for her. It was a ring I had bought for myself the day I decided that no matter what happened, I deserved a life that wasn't full of secrets. It wasn't a wedding ring. It wasn't a symbol of commitment. It was a symbol of choosing myself for once. But the letter, that was the part that broke her. Because the letter wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't a list of everything she did wrong. It was a goodbye. A kind goodbye. A soft goodbye. A goodbye written by a man who had decided months ago that if she ever told him the truth, he wouldn't punish her for it. He would simply step aside and let her return to the life she had been running from. The moment she picked up that letter, her breath left her chest. She didn't read it out loud. She couldn't. She just held it against her heart and started crying the way people cry when they realize they hurt the only person who ever gave them unconditional space to be human. Her son looked at me with disbelief. Her daughter looked like she wanted to apologize on her mother's behalf. The man she once loved nodded slowly, almost respectfully, like he understood exactly what I had done. I finally spoke. I said, "This is the truth. I am not here to decide your future. I am not here to fight for a marriage built on silence. I am not here to compete with a past that she never healed from. I am here to tell all of you that I am stepping out of this story with dignity, with peace, and with the understanding that sometimes love is not enough to fix what fear broke." My wife stood up. She tried to reach for me, but before she touched me, I stepped back. I told her she didn't need to choose between us. She already had a family, the one she brought into my house tonight. They were her story. They were her unfinished chapter. They were the life she couldn't erase no matter how far she ran. I told her she deserved a chance to finish that story, and I deserved a chance to start mine. She begged me not to leave. She said she never wanted to hurt me. She said she loved me. She said she built her whole life on my kindness. But even in her tearful words, I could hear the truth. She was not begging for our marriage. She was begging for the comfort she lost when her secrets came out. Comfort is not the same as love, and love is not the same as honesty. I walked past her gently, not angrily. I told her she would always be a part of my life story, but not the last chapter. Her son stopped me at the door. He said thank you, not for forgiving her, but for not hating them. Her daughter whispered she was sorry. I told her she didn't need to be. She was not the cause of anything. The man she once loved and once left shook my hand. Firm, quiet, understanding. Two men acknowledging each other without any bitterness. And then I stepped outside. It was still my birthday, or at least what was left of it. But I didn't feel empty. I didn't feel broken. I felt free in a way I hadn't felt in decades. I got in my truck. I drove away from the house I had built with my own hands. I drove toward the small cabin I kept near the lake, the place I always went when I needed to think. And when I finally arrived, I sat on the porch and watched the moon shimmer on the water. I thought about my life. I thought about the man I had been. I thought about the man I could become now that the truth was out. The silence was peaceful, honest, real, and for the first time in a long time, so was I. The story didn't end in revenge. It didn't end in rage. It didn't end in chaos. It ended with truth. And sometimes truth is enough to rebuild a life, one honest piece at a time. And that's how my birthday ended. Not with balloons, not with candles, but with the truth finally sitting in the middle of our living room. After 30 long years of silence, some stories end with rage, some with revenge. Mine ended with clarity. I walked away with peace. She stayed behind with the family she once ran from, and that little box turned out to be the start of two completely different futures. If you want more real-life stories just like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I'll see you in the next one.